Well, if you're a gun voter in Casper, you have a choice to make in the upcoming August 20 Republican Party primary. Senator Jim Anderson or his challenger Bryce Reece. Who's going to fight for your gun rights in the Wyoming Senate? Stay tuned, guys. We're breaking this race down for you right now. Hey guys, Aaron Dorr here with Wyoming Gun Owners. The August primary is almost here, and we're getting a lot of questions from gun voters in Casper about this primary between Senator Jim Anderson and his challenger, Bryce Reece. Again, it's Natrona County, Casper in particular, district number 28. And the question you're asking us is not who says they're pro-gun. Everyone says they're pro-gun. It's Wyoming in a primary, so suddenly everyone's a champion, everyone's a hero, everyone's a fighter. And so often, as we know, they get elected, they go to Cheyenne, they stab us in the back. So the question is not who says they're pro-gun. The question, rather, is who can we count on? Who can we trust to send to Cheyenne to fight for our gun rights? In this video, guys, we can't tell you who to vote for. What we will do, though, is give you guys the information you're asking from us to make your own most informed decision. We're going to combine candidate survey programs, roll call votes for or against your gun rights, and public statements to give you a deep dive on these two candidates. And I'm going to begin with Jim Anderson. Now, normally, guys, I try to keep our conversations somewhat short, two years back, 4-year look back. But in the case of Jim Anderson, who might be the biggest anti-gun rhino we have in Wyoming today, I'm going to have to go back just a little bit further. I hope you guys will indulge me. I'm going to begin with our fight to pass Stand Your Ground law in 2018. It's still kind of hard to believe that until we passed Stand Your Ground law, it was a crime in Wyoming if you defended yourself in a public place without retreating first. Hard to fathom, that was the law, and we changed that in 2018. I always knew it was going to be a fight. I did not know how many Republicans would try to sabotage us all along the way. One of the ways they did that was towards the end of session, this is 2018, the Senate Republicans ran an amendment. It's called a kill amendment. It was designed to kill or gut the impact of Stand Your Ground law. The idea is pretty simple. If they can't stop the bill from passing, they want to at least water it down so it has no actual impact. This amendment was filed, the bill number was Senate File 71. The amendment was filed on the bill and voted on the bill February 27, 2018. I looked it up for you guys. Almost every Republican voted the right way on this. The Democrats were a no. A core group of rhinos, though, came together, and Jim Anderson joined them in voting for this amendment, which destroyed Stand Your Ground law. Again, February 27, 2018, Senate File 71. That happened. The very next day, we had regrouped. We came back in the Capitol. We had an amendment in place to undo all the damage that amendment had done. And because of all your phone calls and emails, the members at that time were scared because they were on the hook for gutting Stand Your Ground law, and we put all that stuff back into the bill. That same day, we had the final floor vote on Stand Your Ground law in the Senate, February 28, 2018, again, Senate File 71. Almost every single Republican this time had to vote the right way because it was the last vote on the bill. But again, Jim Anderson voted with the Democrats and the rhinos a hell no on Stand Your Ground law in Wyoming. He wants it to be a crime for you to defend your family in a parking lot. That's what he voted to try to maintain. Thankfully, we had the votes to override him, but that was Jim Anderson in 2018. Let's fast forward 2 years, 2020. We're now trying to get rid of deadly gun-free zones. Wyoming's got a real problem with gun-free zones. UW, all their associated properties, the state capitol, lots of governmental, quasi-governmental businesses and buildings. It's a real problem. We're trying to fix this. This is in 2020. The bill number was Senate File 88. We had to have a 2/3 vote of the Senate to refer the bill to a committee. That was the process in a budget session. You want to guess how Jim Anderson voted on that bill in 2020? He was a no vote with the Dems and the rhinos in the Senate. Look it up for yourself. Again, Senate File 88. 2 years later, 2022, We are trying to pass the Second Amendment Preservation Act. Joe Biden is somewhat fresh in the White House, if that's ever possible for Joe to be fresh in the White House. The attacks are coming hot and heavy. SEPA was designed as a protective shelter over and around Wyoming. It told Joe Biden, you can't use Wyoming cops to enforce federal gun control. That's always the problem in red states like Wyoming. We have great gun laws here. WIGO members like you have made that happen. But if the feds can order local cops to enforce federal gun control laws, then what does it matter? SEPA would have stopped all of that. It was House Bill 133. And again, when push came to shove, when you counted on Jim Anderson, he was a no vote on that bill. Look it up for yourself, February 18, 2022. February is a bad month for Jim. He voted no on Stand Your Ground law in February. He voted no to repeal gun-free zones in February. And he tried to vote against SEPA in February as well. This time it was 2022. Now, you might remember that Anderson and his cronies then filed a parallel version of SEPA that had no teeth, had no impact, no protection for gun owners. That bill passed because they had to have cover in the elections. But the real SEPA bill, Jim Anderson, he was a no vote in 2022. Now, that brings us to where we are today. 2024, Jim Anderson, he cast a couple of pro-gun votes and then a whole ton of votes for gun control. I'm going to break those down for you in a minute. So you're going to have to ask yourself, has Jim Anderson, because he did vote pro-gun on SF 109 this year, was that because he has a change of heart? Has he all of a sudden seen the light? Is he becoming a proponent of the Second Amendment? Or does Jim Anderson know that it's an election year, it's a primary, and he has an opponent? Only you guys can decide. I have my suspicions. But this year, the big fight was all about deadly gun-free zones. House Bill 125. You've probably heard about this. We passed it. Governor Gordon vetoed it. The fight still goes on. But in that process, we needed Jim Anderson at different times. And every single chance he had to screw you over, he did so. The first time was when we had the bill was killed in committee. The Judiciary Committee, stacked full of rhinos, killed the bill in committee. The next morning on the Senate floor, Senator Kinski uses procedural tools, it happens quite often, to resurrect the bill from committee, so to speak, and put it on the floor for a vote. Happens quite a bit. It requires a simple majority, not a big deal. Jim Anderson, when he had a chance to stand up for your gun rights, was a hell no on that bill. Look it up for yourself. It's March 5 of this year, 2024. So despite his efforts, Anderson's efforts, he failed. We had the bill on the floor for a vote the next day. This is March 6 of this year. Now Anderson says to himself, you know, these guys are going to pass this bill. It's going to pass. So what can I do as a rhino piece of trash, hardcore anti-gun Republican? What can I do to weaken the impact of this bill? So what does he do? He joins up with the rhinos to support a whole series of amendments that were designed to weaken the bill. Remember, it's all about getting rid of deadly gun-free zones. So one of the amendments that was filed, you can look it up for yourself, is Amendment 2001. It would exempt college campuses from the impact of HB 125. That's half the reason for the bill in the first place. UW is a sitting duck for a madman with a gun. This bill would give adults in Wyoming who happen to be on a college campus the chance to defend themselves. This amendment would gut that. Anderson, he was an anti-gun vote on that amendment. The same thing for the next amendment, which would exempt hospitals. No point in doing that. If they want to have their own policy, that's one thing, but state code should not mandate that. He helped support that amendment. It was bad stuff. Their last stand, so to speak, was an amendment to require, okay, if you're going to carry on school grounds, you have to give them written notification every 24 hours that you intend to do it. Stupid, cumbersome, unconstitutional. That was the amendment. The amendment number was 2003. And again, Jim Anderson was on that vote in support. So every single time he had a chance to try to kill HB 125 this year, Anderson did. Guys, it's really bad stuff. Every single time, Stand Your Ground law, gun-free zone repeal, SEPA legislation, the procedural votes, the recommittal votes, every single time Every single time, Anderson is an anti-gun vote. Very dangerous stuff. But I couldn't forget to give you one last story. It's about Jim Anderson and the Second Amendment. And what it involves is Jim's attempt to silence Wyoming gun owners. You see, the rhinos hate these videos. They hate our ads. They hate our emails. They hate our radio ads because they're effective at reminding gun owners what devious SOBs these rhinos can be. So as you probably remember, the state came after Wyoming gun owners in 2020 because our members decapitated the careers of a bunch of rhinos like Jim Anderson. So they file a complaint with the state. The state comes to us and they demand a list of our donors, names, addresses, all of it. We told the state to go screw off. Ed Buchanan, who was Secretary of State, Bridget Hill, who still is Attorney General, and of course, Governor Gordon. Told them all to get bent. They came after us again with a civil penalty. We paid that and we sued all of them in federal court. And as you guys know, we won big. We won in district court. The state then appealed their defeat because it's your money, it's our money, it's not their money. They appealed their defeat. We won an even bigger victory in circuit court in Denver. Case closed. We won. That's why we're here today doing videos like this. But you know, it all could have been prevented if Jim Anderson and his cronies had voted properly on campaign finance reform. You see, they invented campaign finance reform. It was House Bill 49. They invented this legislation to try to silence Wyoming gun owners. On that bill, there was an amendment filed that would exempt non-for-profit organizations like Wyoming gun owners. You want to guess how Jim Anderson voted on that amendment? Of course. He voted to silence WIGO forever. The bill number was House Bill 49. The date was March 7, 2022. It was the Bouchard Amendment. Look it up for yourself. Guys, Jim Anderson is not only anti-gun, he is a devious guy who wants to silence and forever muzzle his political opponents. Very, very dangerous stuff with Jim Anderson. If you see him, make sure and tell him to apologize for 12 years of voting against your gun rights in Cheyenne. That's the recap on Jim Anderson. With Bryce Reece, it's very short. I'm going to breeze through it. Bryce has a 100% candidate survey with Wyoming gun owners. Every question we asked him, 100% pro-gun response. He would sponsor the bill to fix the problem with gun-free zones. He supports improving our SAPA legislation. He's opposed to any attempt to weaken stand your ground law, which keeps coming up. He opposes waiting periods. Every question we asked him, 100% pro-gun. That is Mr. Reece. Guys, that is our recap in this race. Do me a favor, share it on social media. You can find it on Facebook, YouTube, X, Rumble, I think, and our website. Get the word out there. Make sure everyone knows that Anderson's been an enemy to gun owners for a very long time. Guys, finally, join the fight today at joinwygo.com.